Hello, and welcome to our Success Story series hosted by GoLean6Sigma.com. My name is Elizabeth Swan, and I'm a managing partner and executive advisor at GoLean6Sigma.com. We are very excited to have this offering for our audience because this is where the rubber meets the road. This is when we highlight someone who has completed a real project that has been implemented with real impact, and we get to share those stories with you. Today, we are highlighting a project success story from Cape Cod Child Development, and our presenter today is Lesley Guertin. Cape Cod Child Development has a mission to provide world-class child and family-focused programs that nurture each child's full potential. And within that, Lesley is the Quality Assurance Specialist. Lesley's been the Quality Assurance Specialist for 7 years now. Lesley began as a lead teacher, so she knows these environments well and what it takes to be effective in the classroom. Lesley and her husband have 3 kids and, shockingly, 2 grandchildren. Lesley, how did that happen? When she's not doting on her 2 6-month-old grandchildren, she's busy with her own custom letter painting business. Lesley, you are busy.
I am very busy.
We're very busy. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for sharing your success story.
You're welcome.
So tell us a little bit about your project.
My project really is focused on lowering the number of incident reports in the classroom. So basically, what an incident really is disruptive behavior in the classroom by children, stemming anywhere from throwing chairs to climbing furniture to, hurting other children and staff members. So in the last 6 months, we've received a large number of incident reports. This was last year. And we have currently put some supports in place. We have JRI, which is our Justice Resource Institute, helps with our mental health pieces in the classroom. And we're also doing a lot of coaching at some of those sites. So we really want to really decrease the number of incident reports. So really, we're looking at 30, and we wanted to cut that in half and look at it as 15.
Yeah. And I know, just as an observer, in case the audience doesn't get it, that obviously any of these incidents impact all the kids.
It impacts the children, impacts the families, and also impacts the staff members that are working with the children.
So it really
teachers.
Cuts down on their ability to be effective.
Absolutely. So really taking a look at my voice of the customer, looking at my customers, they were the teachers, they really were the center managers. They were also the administrators. And really taking a look at what were they saying? What were the issues? Taking a long time for the initial referral to go in, to actually having JRI services in their classroom, not having enough time to submit their incident reports, and also just to see, fewer incident reports from administration and how to prevent the accidents from happening and the amounts that were documented.
Yeah.
So here's my baseline data. So really there is a huge peak of incident reports from September to October. And it's noted that the incidents were on the decline in November, but then continued to climb back in December. So really, when I first initially took on this project, I really looked at 30 being the number. But actually, when I started to collect the data, I found that the median was 60 instead of 30. So that even doubled that even more.
It just kept spiking.
It just kept spiking. So this is my histogram. So on average, there was 2 incident reports that were reported to me on a daily basis.
That's a lot.
That's a huge amount. So this is my fishbone. And really, what I took out of this fishbone diagram is really the bottom key, is the root cause, is really, the classroom environment seemed to have a big impact, among other things. And something that I highlighted there, too, is, the lack of strategies that were being utilized by the teachers. And I think that stemmed from their classroom environment, because when you have a classroom environment that is not effective, you're going to find ineffective teaching practices that go along with that as well.
Kind of a snowball effect.
It is. So here's my Pareto chart. So if you look at the type of incidences that are occurring, hurting children, throwing toys, and hurting staff was the highest incidence reported. And this data was taken from September of 2016 to June of 2016. So you can see there's a huge amount. And, taking a look at this from the outside is we really have to look at safety. Safety of the children in the classroom, and also from our staff, because our staff is getting hurt as well.
So you see things like throwing toys, running, climbing furniture, these real high activity and
it was a trend throughout all our classrooms throughout the whole Cape.
Okay.
So it was a huge trend going on. So what I decided to do is I decided to take one of the classrooms that had a high number of incidences. And this classroom is located in West Main. And as you can see here, this is the before classroom. The block area, as you know, is a little bit small and congested, so is the house area. We have a widespread running area in the middle of the classroom with not much confinement, and a lot of shelving units, which breeds climbing and jumping from. So, when you really take a look at this environment, as a 3 to 5 year old, it's a running haven, and it's a not really safe and nurturing environment. Not enough space to play, where the high number of spaces that are supposed to be played in, they're very small. However, you have a large amount of room and spaces that are not really connected to a learning environment.
That's so interesting once I hear someone who's been in a classroom describe this, because I would never have looked at a shelf and thought, oh, there's something to climb on. But if I'm looking through the eyes of a 5-year-old, then absolutely I'm going to climb on that.
It's a stage for them.
It's a stage. And then I think the T1, T2, T3, those are the tables.
Those are the tables.
But otherwise, as you say, some of your biggest bars on the Pareto chart were running and throwing toys, and there's this big arena to really hurl a toy and to get up a good head of steam while you're running. And I hadn't thought about that. You've got that dollhouse area and you've got the block area, and you use the word congested, like the kids don't have really enough room to just enjoy that space, expand into it, and use it properly.
And also, when you think about the hurting children and hurting staff, if you have just 4 3 to 5 year olds playing in the housekeeping area, and it's so congested that way, that's when you have another child, lashing out at another child because they don't have that space. Children need space to play. So if you don't have really much space to play, and they have to really understand how to share their space, which they can't at this age, not yet, then you're going to see a lot of that.
It even happens with adults being crowded into a cubicle. So I can imagine how 5-year-olds would get annoyed.
Absolutely.
This is a great chart. This spoke volumes to me.
So basically, in my improve phase, what I really wanted to look at is how classroom environments and the description of incidences really was my takeaway on this matrix. Really what I did was I changed some of the classroom environments where I saw a high number of incidences, and also the implementation of an internal referral form, which I'll get into talking about that in a little bit. But really, I thought the impact of changing the environment, I chose 3 classrooms, and one of them were just noted, but chose 3 classrooms that had higher number of incidences to go in and do some impact and change in their physical environment.
So trial change, you picked the ones that really need it and said, okay, let's pilot this and see how it works.
So as you can see now, this is the aftermath of that West Main classroom. So you can see the housekeeping area and the block area is more space to play. The tables are more uniform, and there's actually areas in the classroom that children can go to, which we like to call safe areas in our agency, but some other classrooms or schools would like to call a quiet space. So in this classroom is large enough. It's located in our high school, so it's actually a typical looking classroom of an elementary school per se. So it was a large area. So I decided to define 3 safe areas for the children to go to. So they have a space that they can be alone, they can depress, and they can, they just have a space to go to when they need to be alone. I also defined an art area. I took a lot of shelving units out of this classroom, so there was not a lot of
launch pads.
Exactly. All we had to do was put some trampolines in there, and that would be great. But I really kind of defined the areas and made those learning areas, such as the block and housekeeping areas, large enough spaces to have some of that movement. So children can play and able to have teachers kind of going in, because in the before, teachers were not able to go into that place because there's not enough room. However, now there's plenty of space for a staff member or teacher to go in there, sit with the children, problem solve with children, help them kind of play because we have to learn how to play. This gives an ample amount of room to be able to do that.
That's nice. So you took away all that shelving.
Mm-hmm.
Did you create that storage to put the things that were in the shelves? Like, how did you deal without shelving?
Well, I told the teachers, I said, well, let's take a look at, we have an environmental tool that we use in the classroom. It's called Eckers. And I told the first conversation I had with staff members is, let's take a look at the environment book and let's see what really needs to be in the environment. Do we really need 30 puzzles on the shelf? Because a lot of things too is that if you put a lot of materials out, it becomes overwhelming for children. And then it becomes those throwing mechanisms. As we saw in the chart earlier, that's when the second highest amount of incidences were throwing toys. So when you have a lot of things to throw and not being able to be utilized as the way it is, it causes that unsafe environment for children. So I really had the staff really take a look at that and identify what was the highest need that had to be out in the classrooms and what didn't. So we put a lot of this stuff in storage and they rotate them now. So they're able to rotate the toys and seek that stimulation for children in the classroom by rotating those toys.
That's really nice. You snuck in a little 5S there where you sorted, these toys can be in storage, these toys can be out, but then you rotate them back in. So that's your system, right? That's your standard is a toy or a puzzle is out there for a month, whatever it is, and then a new one comes in.
Yep.
This is great. Really ingenious.
So as I said before in my matrix, this is my internal referral form. I kind of developed this form. So now that by developing an internal referral form, behaviors and or special needs, some disabilities, some things that children are expressing will be observed and determined by myself or the other quality specialist. So I have very detailed things in this form, which will then collect my data moving forward for any kind of referral. And this is, a teacher sees a child with some really aggressive behaviors. They want to refer them out. So they fill out this form, they email it to myself and the other quality assurance specialists. We both go out to do some intensive observations. We type up some strategies for their staff and help them implement them in the classrooms. So we're there. We're there on the forefront. As soon as we get this in, we go right out to do that work. We also follow up with the staff via email or phone call to say, how's it working for you? Do we have to make some more changes? And that way, if I'm going in and nothing's being changed, maybe the environment needs to be tweaked again. So, kind of really looking at the surroundings and things like that. So this internal referral form has been really beneficial for us to be using as an agency to get those resources right out there to staff and the children as well.
So really recognize when there's something that has to get dealt with.
Right.
And maybe the kids transferred out, but maybe not. Maybe you just get the support. You get them the support they need.
Absolutely. If we can do it internally, that's great. However, if we do need to refer them out for JRI, for mental health services or behavioral services, or even through the public school for more evaluations to get tested for anything, then we make that final call before that next step is to go and to get some external referrals done.
Had there been an internal referral form before?
There was one before. It was very vague, and when I took a look at it, it really didn't make sense to me and what I wanted to accomplish with this form. It was very generic. Basically, it spoke to an external referral.
It was a one-way ticket. It wasn't really trying to diagnose or...
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So, we're looking at more things internally before taking that next step to say, yes, let's refer the child out to some external agency.
Interesting. So you dealt with the environment of the classroom to cut down on some of the more prevalent types of incidents, and then you redeveloped this internal referral form to handle what might be behavioral issues that are beyond what the environment can control. So kind of a 1-2 partnered.
Yeah, this is basically like the sifting out of those incidences. Is it a special need? Is it, really a mental health issue for this child or this family? So really taking a look at it even deeper than just taking the number of incidences. Now we can really look at it hands-on, and we're able to do that right away within a week to go out to those classrooms.
That's great. This is great. Thanks for describing that.
Welcome. So here's basically my prize of the of my whole presentation. But it's noticed that the decline in incidences regarding the classrooms where the environments were changed. And also note the spike of the incidences from March to April. And the cause of that was the classroom environment was changed back to the original state. So, when I first did this, I said, wow, what is going on here? We saw a spike down low and then a spike up high. And then when I really dug deeper and spoke to the center manager, the teacher was not satisfied with the classroom arrangement. So she went back to square one, which caused the spike, because now you're seeing the incidences go back up with just that little tweak of the environment.
So, and that's something that a lot of people doing process improvement experience. You've got change is foreign. People are uncomfortable. They don't necessarily see the benefits. So the slipping back to an old way, an old process is always a danger. But it sounds like for the most part, you had a lot more conformance and you kept reforming the layouts for other classrooms as you went along.
So as I went along, you can kind of tell, and you target where you want to go, what's the most that you want to go to first. And I think the highest number of instances happen in these three sites. You have West Main that I gave you an example of, Hyannis, and West Yarmouth with those high numbers, high numbers. So going in and just making those slight adjustments to the environment really drastically impacted the amount of incidence reports that were coming into me.
How is it going now, since the process is in the control phase and those changes have been made? I know you've had a few more reversions to other setups. But
I did. So in our West Yarmouth site, the teacher again switched the environment without consultation. And now we're noticing, as we're still collecting the data, is that there is a huge increases of incidents that are coming into us from West Yarmouth. So we're diving in deeper now, and really going out there much often and having conversations with the teacher, because the teacher has her own way and she likes her own way, and really understanding the impact it made in her classroom when that change first happened.
She needs to see your run chart.
She does need to see my run chart, and because it does. I mean, if you see it, it kind of and we can break it down just to West Yarmouth alone, and show her
what's the trend.
And the inclines of the incidents as well, from just this September to now we're in January.
So more to come.
To be continued.
To be continued. Nice work, Lesley.
So my lessons learned. So I've learned that the impact of physical change in the environment can make a difference in the behaviors of children in the classroom. Also, it's better to look at the examples of the Bahama Bistro and then interpret it into your own process with the voice of the customer and the process work. That was really helpful when I was figuring out how to do my project.
You were quite good. You really looked at those examples and then you completely overlaid it into your world.
Because kind of looking at something that is for profit, such as a restaurant, to something that is totally a different world. Especially being in a nonprofit agency, it's hugely different. It's a totally different culture. So you have to see what you have. You have to look at your examples and then try to interpret it into your own data. And how is it going to work for you? Not saying it's not going to work for you, but how can I make this work? For my process. Also, the benefits: observing and determining if children will need special needs and or behavior services will impact the quality of services for children by providing classroom supports when needed.
Really, really nice job, Lesley. I love your use of the tools and how you adapted just studying that layout and made that work for you, and obviously made great use of the data. You really tracked this stuff and you did some very targeted pilots and then you checked. How did that work? And then you came back and said, okay, I'm going to do another one. So if just a few questions for you. One, you just mentioned that you looked at those examples from the Bahama Bistro and really tried to interpret it because, as you said, the nonprofit culture is so different from the for-profit culture. So do you have any advice for someone who's looking to apply process improvement in the nonprofit industry, now having done it yourself?
I think look at your data. Your data tells a story. So you have to incorporate and interpret your data and see where it's going to take you, because it's going to take you in a totally different direction. Reading my data, you're looking at number. Then I'm looking at the cause. Why? Then I'm kind of making some improvements, changing the classroom environment and then moving forward. And I think not only has Six Sigma helped with helping interpret my data, but it's helping me with just my life in general. I'm taking it to another level of everything. I'm looking at it with those Six Sigma eyes and really kind of interpreting it, even in my own business.
Oh, what have you done in your own business?
So I've been actually tracking some data in my own business.
No.
I have the number of orders that I'm getting a day, and then I'm looking at the time period of which it takes the end where I actually ship the item out. So I'm looking at all
order to ship.
Yep. All this stuff. I'm using Six Sigma not only in my nonprofit but on my for-profit as well. So it's really taking a really great toll in my life, personally and professionally.
Well, that's a great story. And just to come back to it, the focus on the data. Does the data help you with other people? Did it help you convince some of the people around what's going to be good for the kids, good for the classroom?
Absolutely, especially in my West Main site. What I was able to do is I was able to share that with the center manager there and actually the lead teacher to show her why we're doing improvements. I'm not just coming in to change our environment because I want to, but there's purpose to that. And here's the data that she sent me to actually make some final determinations on what we wanted to do with that environment.
That's great. Mm-hmm. And did they have a hand in the referral form and sort of telling you what they needed, or did you have any back and forth there?
We had some back and forth. I think it was a huge education piece for the staff there, as they didn't really dive into the Eckers tool, which is the environment tool that we use in the classroom. So really giving them the layout of the book and really having them look through that themselves and picking out the materials that they wanted to put out really made them, incorporated them into that whole process. So it wasn't me just going in there, changing what I wanted to do and left it. I really took them in and said, well, this is why we're doing this. This is the data. This is your facts. And then, of course, then we have the tool that we have to look at to see what is appropriate, what's not appropriate to put out. And then having them make that final judgment and final call, which is huge.
That's great.
And then got feedback from them afterwards in a few weeks. How is your environment working for you? And them having to say to me, it's like a whole different world kind of thing. So really great.
So that's helpful, and I think that's a truth, whether you're in profit or nonprofit, that you really got to involve your stakeholders, and that communication and that feedback, the helpful loops as you're designing new forms, as you're designing new processes, and also you ended up educating them, giving them more background on classroom setups. And then I think back to your own experience that it's all about the data. And you took that straight from nonprofit into profit world.
Absolutely.
So that is a truism. That's great. I'm Elizabeth Swan, and you're listening to a GoingSixSigma.com success story highlighting Lesley Guertin of Cape Cod Child Development. Lesley, I want to thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your success story. I also want to thank our listeners for joining us today. I hope you found this success story as helpful and as inspirational as I did. If you have a success story that you'd like to share, send us a note at GoingSixSigma.com. Don't forget to go on our website and view all our other success stories and download free tools, templates, and lots of other resources from the website. Until next time, goodbye all. Thanks for joining us.